What's up, everybody? This is Mr. Composition, the MC that writes fiction, and this is another episode of, yeah, that's right, you guessed it, The Composition. And today, doing a joint podcast with the one, the only warrior, Kinyo.
Scoop, scoop. What it do?
Oh man, it is an amazing Saturday. This is another week completed. Um, so just with this new week completed, what has been your overall feeling just within yourself? Like, has there been something that you've done this consistently? Yeah. What's been your thoughts?
Ooh, so on the challenge?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this week it's interesting. It's teaching. What the good thing about the challenge is usually, like you try to do, because really the challenge is just reiterating what I know I need to do every day, but it's just saying it like, okay, yeah, you need to drop this podcast every day. The good thing about it is it shows you the reason why to create a challenge is it shows you why you're not already doing something. So this week was just another level of showing me how I'm gonna have to change what I think in order to accomplish this actual level. Like if I actually want to be there, not just think about it, I'm realizing, okay, I learned a couple things just on the technical side, which is, you have to become more okay with uploading audio because, you're going to miss certain times of recording. You might not record an episode on a certain day, but definitely you should know. And even then, really having an organized way of looking at realizing how detailed I'm going to have to be with the organization. And even though it takes energy, it saves time. I think sometimes we don't realize the difference between the two things. There are things that cost you energy, but deliver you hours of time, which is a really big deal that just kind of really crystallizes to me right now. It's like, that's the whole, if you get really good at that, that's what entrepreneurship is all about. Entrepreneurship is about your intuitive ability to be a service brokerage inside of your own brain and be able to say, okay, this services take this time, this services take this energy. What's the best way of organizing a system that is profitable and will save both time and energy? And the best you do to optimize time and energy because you get the surplus. If it's better than the system that existed before, i.e. you're able to make the same quality of product for a lower cost, then you are going to get customers. People are going to buy from you, and you get to keep a portion of that thing that you save. Not all of it, or else, you get the same price as whatever else is on the market, but you get to keep that. And so, so this has been about basically learning how to deliver the product, keeping the product good quality, which fortunately I'm starting at a very easy level on that, but keeping the product at the same quality and then delivering it faster and so there's a couple hacks technically on that. I know I need to be. I think for me, my hack for next week, this week was yet another failure. And if you listen to the last time I talked about this, you realize I said that as well. But I'm still getting the podcast out. But I missed a couple days and then I put it afterward. I posted it the next day. So for me, I know next week everything has to be scheduled. Really, I think on Monday or maybe today, I'm going to schedule out, because I have audio. I got podcast. And I have stuff that I want to release, good stuff that I'm excited to have out there, and strategic stuff because it features people. And one big thing that I've been doing a lot this week is realizing how awesome it is to put up a post and tag somebody, and like that really, 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 really works. And that's but yeah, the consistency hack has been okay. Next week is going to be scheduling.
You know, that's interesting because the I was looking up the etymology of distribute, and for the verb, it comes from 15th century distributin, to deal out or apportion, bestow in parts or in due proportion, from Latin distributus, pass pass participle of distriburi, to divide, deal out in portions, from this meaning individually, tribere, to pay, assign, grant, also allot among the tribes or to a tribe, from tribus, meaning
You
sep.
know,
Mm-hmm.
oh no, it's funny that you say that because I was really thinking. I think a lot of people's big miss is the distribution on the 7 to 12 on the people closest to them and the people. No, really just the people closest to them. I think about it in two groups, which is the 7 to 12 people closest to you and then the 50 people closest to you. Really, I think that's a really big deal, and we don't take into account how much time we don't give to those people. And that's why I think a lot of people change, either they change their circles after they start moving towards success, or they change their circles in order to move through success, because I don't think it's the people around them aren't the people who can help them be successful. Sometimes, oh, definitely, that is actually the case almost all the time, but it has less to do with the person being, those people being the wrong person, and rather that person doesn't have the ability to be candorous with those people, and so they need to find someone that they can be honest with so that they can be a version of themselves that has a chance at success. But when we said, yeah, to distribute to the tribe, I really think the first level of distribution is to the 7 to 12, one to yourself, but then to the 7 to 12, let them see the projects. Because if you were, if you had a whole team, let's say you're on a professional level, every professional level has a team of people who see the work before it goes out. Like every single one. It doesn't matter. Even the least one would be the artist, and even he is going to have his agent, the guy who owns the gallery, and probably, a couple other artists and maybe some they're dating see the thing before it goes out. And just realizing, yeah, the faster you can get comfortable with, and it's funny because distribute also made me think, one, tribe is in the word, but also tributes, like a king
Tributes to the tribes. Tributes to the tribes.
Right, a king will get tributes paid to him. I was thinking about like this as like making the tribute opposite, and it's like, why does the king get tributes from the people? And maybe I see like an interesting balance there where it's because he distributes the land to everybody, and then they give a tribute back. But I think, yeah, breaking it off for the 7 to 12, hitting it up with them, and then also the 50 people around you, your village. If your village is not seeing anything about you, it's funny, I saw this lady, very prominent, I respect her so much. She's she does stuff for nonprofits. She was board of the education for a school board out here, one of the school boards out here. And, she's big business. She's part of the Rotary Club. She does really big stuff. And she posted this thing, and people love to do this. They say, support your friends' businesses. People love to do that, not realizing. It was funny, the comment, because she actually had some comment underneath it. They were like, yeah, like I'm super down for paying full price. And they made a joke, like, I just want a veteran's discount. And she was like, oh, yeah, definitely. And then her friend commented something that was so funny. I hope she's probably going to be able to know who this is. But it was so funny to me because it really showed off what's going on with so many people. And her friend said, and this is a business I've seen her publish for a while. Her friend said to her, I don't know what I'm buying, but I'm in. A big thing is, the 50 people around you don't even know what you sell. They don't even know. They haven't even heard. It might be years, and if your village doesn't even know what's being sold, where it's being sold, what the product is, why they would buy it, you're not distributing to them first. You're just making it very hard for yourself. Or you have a different strategy that's going through a technology, and so maybe you're not distributing. Your 50 people aren't people who live around you. Maybe you're using a technology, and your 50 people, your 7 to 12 people are, so online on Facebook somewhere, and your 50 people, the people that you market to, you did a demographic template, and so you know what type of people, just like finding friends naturally or your village naturally, but let's say you found a different community that doesn't exist all in one geographic area or all in one industry around you or whatever. You don't have a group like that online because you don't use your personal self. Then you do research, figure out the demographic who is into your stuff, and then you use a technology method like ads or flyers or whatever to reach those people. But realizing that, you are the center of your own orbit. But anyway, sorry, I ranted on that for a long time.
No, it's true, because I mean, what it made me think about was like the law of reciprocity. And the thing is that, yeah, the king who distributes to the tribe, who gives, tribute to the tribe, so that can be anything from land to even information. So it's just all like, yeah, you have your 7, which is going to be your tribe, your 50, which is going to be your village. And you're right, what you said was something that when I was on Reddit and Talib Kweli was doing a IMA, and I got to ask him a question, and he responded back, because I asked him, and this was years ago. This was like 2011 or something like that, because I asked him, I was just all like, he was saying that if I come to your city and I ask people about you and they don't know who you are, you're not doing enough work. And I asked him, I was just all like, because I was just all like, I don't really agree with that, because I mean, a lot of artists, when they leave, there's been plenty of examples of artists that left, their place, their hometown, and got known, and blew up. Some people left the whole freaking country and blew up and came back, and then everyone knew them, but what he said was so dope, because it literally like kicks that, because that, what I asked him was, honestly, it was an excuse, and the thing is that there is so much work to do within you think that you're reaching everybody, you think that you're distributing to, your tribe and your village, but a lot of times in reality, like 2-3 people out of that scenario, out of your tribe and your village, actually saw it. So what is your strategy to be able to constantly be able to communicate with those 7 to 12, those 25 to 50?
And I think the real strategy is humility, because I think one thing that people don't realize is we see a lot of stuff. Human beings, we do a lot in one day. We do a lot, and we scroll past a lot of stuff. We see a lot of different things, and it's just realizing that no matter how dope you think you are, someone could see 2 hours of your video over the course of like a year and still not get it. It's realizing how big of a challenge it really is, because then the humility will counteract the audacity to believe that you even have a shot of putting out too much content.
Yeah. Like it will constantly just all like, it'll block your shit when you try to go up to the basket. It's just like nope. But what that made me think about is with this challenge, what it showed me is that because we were talking about clips before, and what this challenge has showed me is that after the challenge, I will more than likely move to a once a week format, but daily be dropping clips. Because that's the thing. People, it's not like when you hear someone like Gary Vee say drop content every day, or different things like that, or you hear somebody or him or Russ say drop a song a day, anything like that. The issue is, or the not the issue, but what they're really saying is that the main thing is that you have to get attention every single day to stand a freaking chance. How you get that attention is through doing stuff that, isn't the normal every day, and tying it into what it is that you're doing, and so what that means is that no, you don't necessarily have to drop a song a day, but you need to talk about the song in some way every single day that you had dropped, until you drop the next one. Like those are the type of things. You just have to be or have something in
You know,
place, for you to be seen every day.
yeah, yeah, it's really fascinating. And I realize, clips. I think that word, especially using it the way we're using it, is a metaphor for realizing. I'm almost thinking about it as leaves. You have to realize there's the tree, the trunk, the branches, and then the leaves and all these different leaves. And I think when you really know that you yourself are actually the tree, and all of these different leaves are your chance of getting a little bit of sunlight, and realizing that everything is a leaf. There's really only clips. There's really only leaves. Like every little thing is just a clip, whether it's a tweet, whether it's a blog post, whether it's anything really.
Yeah, yeah, and the part of distribute, is to deal out or portion, bestow in parts. And what's another word for parts? It's gonna be a clip. Like it's gonna be
It's
clips.
funny, and yeah, exactly, because in skateboarding, their clips are literally called parts. And the funny thing about theirs is, they actually go, it's very hard to make a skateboard part. I mean, not very hard, but yeah, you have to get the best of your tricks in each one of your parts. But they also, now with Instagram, everything's changing a little bit, because you just drop a part on Instagram, and you're dropping parts of parts, clips of parts. You're dropping those every day on Instagram, and it still has the same exact effect, because people are seeing it and they go buy the products of these skateboarders. I was gonna get, there's a little bit of one thing to really realize on entrepreneurship, and I think I'm really just realizing this a little bit more right now, is that to be an entrepreneur is to be a, either helped and protected, which is one part of it. And I think certain entrepreneurs have certain things in their mind, in their way, to protect them and to help them on their way, but either way, it's intense savagery. And people don't get to see the savage, to really be an entrepreneur, you have to be hardcore, because essentially what a business does is they process the hard stuff out of life. And with skateboarding, we don't really see all the numbers of, oh, they signed this skateboarder, this skateboarder, and even though they're all getting paid, this guy's getting paid this, that guy's getting paid this. Really, this guy's only what the company is absorbing is a lot of the chance. Skateboards just didn't sell this month because of this. This guy, even though he's getting paid a certain amount, maybe people just aren't seeing his stuff as in the same kind of way, and they're not buying. He's not selling his pro boards, but we don't see any of that because the business smooths it all out. And so, as for an entrepreneur, you have to be always ready to absorb something negative and be able to translate it into positive. And that means having a way to make money if there's something to pay for. If there's something that needs to be paid for, the entrepreneur has to figure out where to get that money from. And the thing is, the money has nothing to do with what needs to get paid for. Not really. He's making that connection and literally grabbing two pieces of rope that are like not connected and pulling them together and tying it and leaving it as a knot. But either way, and so it looks like to all of us who consume this art in a different way, we're like, oh man, it's very cool. So I see what I have to do. I have to do this, and then I'm gonna start making money the way that I want. It's like, no. If you need to start making money, and then you can do this, and then that'll give you opportunities to make money in different ways that you might like more. And you can start working on it like that, but there's no easy aspect to this, and I think that's why it's like, even with the strategy of getting this consistency, it's like, this consistency is good because you need to be able to get wins outside of the time where you need them. You need to have a bunch of different strategies, and you need to be implementing them all the time, but it can't look chaotic, and it can't burn you out, because you're the entrepreneur. You're the one paying for the health care. So if you stop working, there's not going to be any health care. You're the one paying for this, and that. So you literally have to find balance in the wild.
Have you ever looked up the etymology of entrepreneur?
Probably at one point.
So, 1828, manager or promoter of a theatrical production. Reborrowing of French entrepreneur, one who undertakes or manages. Agent noun from Old French entreprenidre, undertake. See enterprise. The word first crossed the channel late 15th century, Middle English entrepreneur, but did not stay meaning business manager in from 1852. Now, what's interesting is the etymology for undertake, which is from 12th century to entrap, 13th century to set about to do, from under and take, similar formation in French entreprenidre to undertake, from entre, between, among, and then prendre, to take. The under in this word may be the same one that also may form the first element of understand. Old English had underneeman, to trap, except, cognate with Dutch ondernemen, German unternetmen. So that's freaking interesting.
That's very interesting. I never thought about the undertaker entrepreneur. It's a little similar way in which it sounds. And I don't want to make it seem like I think entrepreneur. I think the only thing with entrepreneur, it's based off of need, and it's not. I don't think it's hard actually. I think it's a very simple thing to do. But in society, we glamorize storylines around a bunch of occupations, and it's like, yeah, but no. Like, the reason why we're adding the context of our ideals for the country or for our own lives, we add them into this thing because either we're kids when we see these people or something else, And so we just make the occupation something that it's not, and then I think that can lead to just, confusion when it comes into doing the thing. And I think people, they stay confused for a lot of their lives in different things, and not understanding, why this or that. And I think what I loved about entrepreneurship more than anything else is it let me study the universe, and it let me see, what's true, what's not true. Like, oh, I see. Like, this is what music is really for. This is what a poem really does for a person. And when you see the behind the scenes, all that stuff, I think that's why we like behind the scenes so much, because it gives us much needed clarity. And entrepreneurship, yeah, I just think it has to. It's not something that it's not an act of creation. It really is an act of balance, where you're looking at two areas in which life is going on, and you are observing a possibility for a greater balance. If it's already balanced more than you can balance it, you're not going to find any traction, because it's about competition. It'd be like trying to go to someone else's land and build a house on it without paying for it or something, or paying for the land. I don't know. That was really weird.
Well, no, no, no.
Analogy, but
I think you're onto something, because when I look up the etymology of enterprise, it is early 15th century, an undertaking, formerly also enterprise, from Old French enterprise, an undertaking, noun use of feminine past participle of entre prenidre, undertake, to take in hand, from entre, between, pendre, to take, contraction of prehendere, to catch hold of, seize, from prey, before, hindre, root, again, to seize, take, abstract sense of adventurous disposition, readiness to undertake challenges, spirit of daring, is from late 15th century. The thing is, I'm doing something. Um the so the it's a adventure, as far as, the thing with entrepreneurship is that literally you have to be daring. It's not an easy thing. Like, that is the complete reality of it. Like, doing things like making money is easy, but you're not just making money. You are undertaking an adventure. That's literally what entrepreneurship is. That I don't even think I've ever heard it like that, but literally you're undertaking an adventure. That shit is not all peachy keen, and the adventure doesn't happen overnight. This is a legit journey.
and you're choosing it too,
And you're
and I
choosing it,
think
yeah, like you're
you can
undertaking it.
always stop. Like, there's really no um there's really no there's really nothing and you can always pivot it, you can always change it. So it's like, yeah, it's like really realizing, okay, how much do I want to do this? Exactly. But it's cool, and I think the choosing your own adventure is really important, because sometimes you let people choose for you for different reasons. That's one of the biggest things, I think is hard about being an entrepreneur. Everyone is an entrepreneur. It's just at a certain age, you choose what your adventure is going to be. And we do this thing where we blame other people for the adventures that we chose.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, if you don't like it, take a different one, because let's take a different one.
Right? But you know what ends up happening is there's sentimentality with it. There's, time that was spent with it. You see it all the time. For the people who attempted to do something, and I don't know, they ended up getting a career and then having a family or whatever. There's some people that that didn't stop them. Like they went and continued on, but some people was just saw like, hey, this is now I'm on a different adventure. You know, like I'm on a different, journey.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And I think that, yeah, that is part of their adventure. I think where it gets confusing is like maybe if you had just like lied or different things along the way, or like different ways in which you um, don't want to, different ways in which you don't actually want to be on the adventure that you're on. But yeah, there really doesn't need to be.
Honestly, if you want to understand entrepreneurship, listeners, the perfect anime just like popped into my head. And it's One Piece because we're talking about adventures, or even Hunter x Hunter. Like, honestly, like if you look at these and how long these motherfuckers, like, I think One Piece is still going on to this day. Like this shit's been out for like how long, so
Yeah,
that
and realizing, I think that's the thing. It's so long that, and I think sometimes we're holding our breath, or I think sometimes people can get to the point where they're, I don't know, they want something, and I think there's the humility. And the other part I was going to say, it's funny that it's called content, because another part is being content.
mm,
You know, I think an entrepreneur really has to achieve contentment, because without that, you're attempting to balance these scales with a bunch of weight on one of the balances. And that means even if it does get balanced, it's never really balanced, because you're, if you're compensating for even something small, like, just being a little bit tired, and so you engineer the whole system around the fact that, you're like a little bit tired every day, you might design a system that is not actually helpful, because you're the calibration machine as the entrepreneurship. So everything's going to be calibrated, according to you. And so learning how to rest is a huge part of being able to be a successful entrepreneur.
When you had said as far as content and then content, I decided to go ahead and look up that emoji of that just because, y'all are getting a fire ass podcast, just to let y'all know. Like, thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all are getting the legit behind the scenes, like, mechanics of how we make sense of things. The verb content, or content, to rest or be satisfied, to give satisfaction to, from Old French, contenter, from content adjective satisfied, and medieval Latin contare, contenter, both from Latin contentus, contained, satisfied, to hold together, enclose. Um, let's see. The adjective held or contained within limits, having the desire limited to present enjoyment, which is interesting when we think about content creation, creating these, you know, the desire as far as through these forms of enjoyments, or knowledge or different things like that. Another thing is state of mind, which results from satisfaction with present circumstances. The phrase "heart's content." The other one is that which is contained. So it's very, very interesting because I dropped the project Quantum Containers, and it's just like looking at what's contained within these pieces of content, and that's where the clips comes into play, because I realized that you can save energy. It's like, what do you really ultimately want to do? Like, if you had the energy to make movies, every day or something like that, would you want to put energy into making a movie a day, or to make a movie a week but use as far as the rest of the time, or distribute the time to where you have more time to market and promote what it is that you just had by way of clips. You never know what clip might convert. you know um and that is what is important, like dropping these clips. You don't want to drop the whole thing as far as on platforms where people, until they know you, or come across a clip that leads them to the whole, because that's what normally ends up going on. They got to see a couple of clips, to be converted over, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And you can always drop the thing and then drop the clips too. I think it's just whichever one is causing friction, it needs to go. It needs to be canceled, because again, it's choose your own adventure. There is no preset template, especially in business. Business is in entrepreneurship. That's why entrepreneurship school is kind of weird. I mean, you can kind of equip people with terminology. The real benefit of entrepreneurship school is the language and your ability to consistently learn how to hang out with people. But you're already doing. I hear people talk about, oh, I'm so glad I went to this school because that's where I met this person, this person. And it's true. Most people are not going to successfully socialize outside of a lot of these infrastructures, and that's why that's actually a really big, important part of college. Helps people not destroy their lives when they have serious, like, serious functional flaws in the way that they deal with reality, which is why they're not ready to be on their own. It's literally a system designed by our country to keep young people alive and doing morally beneficial activities, because most people do not, outside of, if they didn't go to college, they would just drink all day, or they would just hang out with the wrong people, or they would just do a lot of stuff that would lead, and that's why we think that about people who don't go to college, because it's true for a lot of them. But there's a whole another type of person who creates their own mental apparatuses to keep themselves leveling up in a way, socially, mentally, and in a lot of different areas, that is equal to or better than the college strategy. So anyway.
So it's like, basically, it's like the university should really learn, like, honestly, it should be a school for self-development, because that's what you're basically there to do, because you're going to be networking with people who literally are going to be the next, like, think about how many actors were literally, roomed together, went to the same schools, and later on became like these super incredible freaking. They all went to the same thing. But if we look at, like, okay, we ultimately know that, okay, if anything, what you're going to college for is to network with very important people, because you're all at the same place and you just don't know. You can kind of guess, like, when you're around certain people, like, oh, this nigga's gonna be successful as fuck, like, but then there's some people that'll surprise you, because this same person, who surprised you was the one who was, like, getting completely tore the F up in college, and magically was able to skate through, and is wildly freaking successful. And then you have the one person who completely bypassed college and was just all like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do this shit, and is like the most successful out of all of them. Like, it's
And
It's
it's like I think human beings just have issues, to be quite frank. And that is what college is used for. The only problem is it's a little bit over. It's not a little bit. It's extremely overpriced. It's a tool, and it has themes and stuff like that. But it costs too much, so that's a problem. But I think human beings, they just do hilarious stuff. Like, I don't really think about it too much because I don't know. But one thing I can tell you is, like, over and over again, like, different situations, different people I meet, people do the most hilarious stuff. They destroy relationships at speed and volume, and a lot of it has to do with a lot of people are actually inside of their own micro universe, and I think that's why the university is a funny way of counteracting that. But a lot of people are in their own space, and the universe, even though they see all this stuff that's out here, what they're actually seeing is representations of their own appetites. And we have appetites on a bunch of different levels. There's like food, sex, anxiety, identity, destiny. And so people look around at all these things, and because for one reason or the other have a weird calibration on one of their appetites, it changes the whole relationship that they have with the world, and it makes them into unsustainable things. So every time if they're around money, the money goes away. They consume it. That's them. If they're in a relationship, they consume it because their appetites are so fast. If they're around whatever, they consume it, and they just consume it in weird ways, and they don't know how to think sustainably about it. And that's why we make products that help us do that. And I think there's a really big thing on that I think is an unlock for entrepreneurship that hasn't been put out yet. I think there's a certain quantity of electronic products that every entrepreneur, every entrepreneur should have immediately. And I think that's why people do so much research on that stuff. Like, if you get like the 5 or so important products, the CRM, the sales management, the product flow management, you get those products, it'll give you that's interesting about quantum containers too. It'll give you the containers you need in order to operate a business and learn how to sustain business relationships, relationships that are measured inside of quantity and very real things, because that's where a lot of personal relationships go awry. People are just doing weird stuff. I don't even really know how to explain it, but they're not intentionally messing it up. But in a universe where most people can only sustain, and I think this is one thing that people don't really realize, you can't be friends with everybody. So you have a limited number of people that you can be friends with, and when you think you can be friends with everybody, you end up being a bad friend to a lot of people. Inadvertently, because you're like, oh, you're calling this person my friend. They have a certain type of expectation, but you can't be friends with the other people. That's why there's other categories of human relationships called customers, clients, business partners, and all of those things have detailed documentation associated with them so that the relationship is understood in a way where it's like, because with a friend, if they tell you something made them upset, or you're noticing that they're upset, and it's something that you can change, you have to basically change it with all of your expenses, which means, yeah, you have enough for that with 7 people, but you can't do that with the entire universe. People are trying to be Superman out here. That's where the humility comes back again. It's like, chill. A lot of people just need to chill. They need to chill. They need a framework that will, and a big part of the chill is your rewards. How do you give yourself rewards? Like, how do you literally tell yourself at the end of the week, at the end of the day, good job? That's a really big deal. That's one thing I'm thinking about right now. It's like, you need to have a weekly reward that allows you to feel um, that contextually you've reached what you were supposed to reach in the week, and finally, and being more intentional about it. Because I think I kind of do it in certain kind of ways. I'm like, all right, I get to watch this, I get to do this, but I'm like, yo, you're giving yourself some petty reward, and it's not about money, but it's like, yo, I want. It's like your own emotional bank account. Getting it back to zero at the end of the week is a really important thing. Maybe it would be like a therapy session. I go to therapy on Saturdays now or something.
you know, that's freaking hilarious because I was reading this thing and it's like um, it's like this Mayan calendar, and it's with my birth date or whatever. And it's like telling me these different things that are so on point. It's like so hilarious. And with me actually going to Mexico, like it has this thing. But you being a friend of mine, I'm gonna read some of this shit and it's gonna be so hilarious because it's just all like, yo, how the fuck, but that's like the things that it's like the things that I find patterns in. So it says that in this shit, I'm a yellow human or something like that. And since you're yellow, this means you're a doer, you're detail oriented, you create and build, you play the fourth or manifesting role in the universal creation process. And then it goes on to say your tone, overtone, commands, power to empower, essence is radiance. Innately curious, you love to research, learn, and investigate, but not in the stuffy way. You learn so you can teach, communicate, and fully participate in life. You're vibrant and constant motion and love to grab life by the horns and not let go. You inspire and empower just by being yourself. Your challenges come when you try to compare yourself to others or some ideal. When you start thinking about how life should be rather than just being, you can start doubting yourself and insecurities spring up, taking over your usual zest for life. Remember, you are a unique being with brilliant, radiant power. Don't smother your own essence with the shoulds of others or society. And then it goes on to say the challenges, which are freaking hilarious. Uh, Hidden power of the seven, the unexpected. So it says that as a human, day 12, influence, essences, wisdom, power, free will. Yellow humans have open minds with their natural ability to directly access their higher selves. You're very sensitive, kind, and have great sense of humor. People love being around you, and you enjoy pleasing people. You give of yourself generously and expect nothing in return, and relationships are very important to you. You have a strong drive to achieve your goals, possess a solid work ethic, and are a practical problem solver. It may take you a while to get started, but once you are going, you're committed to achieving your goals. You like being the master of your own time and would do best working for yourself or in an environment that allows you total freedom with your schedule. You're a great organizer and believe in leading by example. You have the ability to bring the past to life and as such may be drawn to uncovering lost wisdom. You also have a strong bond with nature, especially healing herbs and flowers, and thrive being out in nature. uh, and so the challenges were hilarious. So it says yellow humans can work so hard that they wear themselves down. You're often too nice, close your eyes, and ignore when others violate your boundaries. Being afraid of rejection and criticism, you have a hard time drawing the line and can be indecisive, not wanting to alienate anyone. While you may enjoy competition, you can easily be hurt by defeat or rejection, and then have a hard time expressing it, often bottling everything up inside. These tendencies to suppress your feelings, especially feelings of anger, can effectively poison your system, leading to mental and physical health problems. Allow others to see when you're upset and learn to release your negative emotion. Communication and standing in your power will bring balance and harmony to your life. Meditate on the following concepts: creator, spiritual channel, responsible, straightforward, harvester, abundant, hard worker. Now, that shit is crazy, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, my thing with those types of things is, yeah, they're gonna be on point because it's, it's, I think, it's like inspirational material, and I think the cool aspects of it is that the writer writes them for, anyway, because I used to be very big into, this is probably not super related, but fortune cookies. Never mind, I can't even tell this story because it's not going to be. But anyway, I guess I'll tell it since I already started it. But and it seems so like trivial, but I didn't think of. I don't know. I think that there's a type of writing that it's like the same reason why we watch movies or poetry. We are down in in any narrative very easily. I mean, and then we're all humans, and so we have the same things, but on an invisible type plane. But anyway, I think where it gets larger and more spiritual, I think for you, especially as like a spiritual practice, is being able to see, okay, because it's coming from you. You add a next level. You use your own spiritual power to power essentially a spiritual vehicle.
Oh yeah. And the thing is that that's why I'm so into astrology, because these people recognize that, for the most part, when you really dive into astrology and you realize that on a scientific level, like people who are born on certain times have the influence, doesn't mean that they have the, guarantee, but they just have surrounding influence that can or cannot, cause for certain traits to shine in different ways, and so when I look at this stuff, because it's just all like they're getting it from something that has a type of energy signature basically on the, like, none of these things are going to be able to get you 100%. Even some of the best astrologers, they can be so on point and get things down to the freaking T, to where you're just like, there's no freaking way that this person could even know this, like certain marks on your body, freaking all of these different things, but they're not going to know 100%. Like, nothing is, because there's certain things that shift, in the sky and different things like that. And so that's why I think a lot of people, they get turned off by things like astrology, because they're just all like, well, the skies and different things like that, they change and da da da. And it's all like, yes, when you dive into actual astrology, they put in, they the way that they do it in like economics and stuff, where they price for inflation or whatever, like basically they do that in the stars. They realize that yes, there was a fucking shift, and this and this, so they calculate based on the shift, and so that's what's very fascinating about all of these things. And when I think about entrepreneurship, and then this undertaking of this adventure, and the challenges and the different things that come about, I think about the stories of like ancestors, and the different tribes in Africa and different things like that. And it's just all like, entrepreneurship is really, you putting your life journey, into a physical entity. Like you putting your adventure or aspect of your adventure into a business. That's why a lot of people, they're like, well, all right, guys. He had to go, but I just want to tell y'all that was a fire podcast. This is Mr. Composition MC that writes fiction. You can follow Kinyo at Kinyo HQ on all platforms. But yeah, make sure to check out the description for all types of goodies. Um, yeah, peace. Yo, yo, yo. Hold on, one more time. It was just recorded. What was that?
www.kinyo.org.
All right, so we're gonna dive into some cool conversations off the record. So y'all, thank y'all for tuning in to the composition. Peace.